Hey.
Wepa!
Hey.
What does wepa mean?
Wepa is like
Hooray!
It's like wow or hooray.
Okay.
It's weird.
I've learned Spanish today.
It's not like a word, it's like an expression. Thank you for joining us. Dave is here. Love Thursdays. Love Thursdays. It was so cool. The show was amazing. Thanks for joining us. My favorite was, I love when you personally connect with a listener. So I'm excited for Anthony, who is going to connect with you after.
Yeah,
Good.
that's cool.
Yes. And so right now, what I wanted to kind of tackle with you was one of the challenges with in marriage. We all know finances is a big one. And you had
Yes.
mentioned, what did you say, the top 3 or 4?
Kids, money, and sex.
Wow. Yeah. Kids, hello. And then like when teens get to that age, it kind of shifts up to like number 1.
Yeah, whenever one of our kids did something wrong, I'd say, do you know what your kid did today?
Oh, I
Never
know,
my
that's
kid, it
right.
was your kid.
Right.
That's right. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Annette. Thanks for tuning in.
Hola.
So, yeah, finances is definitely a hot topic, and depending on the seasons, you know, it could be more hot than others. I found an article that I wanted to kind of run by you, and it was giving 4 tips for discussing money with your spouse or partner. And so it was saying the tips are to help you kind of be open to what your spouse is saying and keeping it kind of low key. And this person says the things they discuss are any purchases over $50. And so it's not so much like getting permission, but more sharing those, especially non-essentials. They evaluate the true cost. That's another tip. Evaluating the true cost of large expenses, large purchases, the true, like what things do they have to give up? Maybe you need a new refrigerator or a trip you have to take. They review their credit card statements, and then they set saving goals and automate additional savings. So I wanted to know what you thought about these tips, but then also he never mentioned how often are we supposed to talk about finances. I'm talking about ideally. I know there's not a set formula, but what are your suggestions to keeping your financial life healthy, especially when it comes to discussion? And then when you do sit down, kind of a list of saying, okay, let's talk about these things to stay focused. Because you know finances can also get emotional. And then you're talking about a bunch of stuff.
I've noticed that before.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, you can sit down to talk about finances and end up talking about something else that's not about the true issue and goals that we have.
Well, we call that a circular argument. And what happens is I come home and I say, hey, I noticed a charge for Amazon for whatever. And she says, but do you remember when you... And now we're off to the races, right? So it's on.
And you don't love me anymore.
Right. You don't care what I think. Well, you know, I think the easiest thing to do, Janelle, is to do it right from the beginning, because it's always easier to start off right than it is to go back and then fix something after you've been in bad habits for 10 years of your marriage. However, we don't do that. That's not how we are as a people.
And that's assuming you've been raised to know that, because a lot of people get married early and you're already walking in clueless about finances.
That's right. And so what I see is, in my practice, I see a lot of people who, it'll be one spouse or the other handles the money. And the other spouse is kind of left in, not that they're purposely left in the dark, but they're doing other things. And so it's not really a topic that gets discussed a lot. So when it does come time to discuss it, the person who's handling the money feels slightly accused if something is askew, or maybe the savings has dropped, or they ran into a financial emergency, didn't have the means to meet that emergency. So then the other spouse says, well, it looks like I got to get involved. And that's the wrong way to do it. So I think a normal way to do it is to keep an open book. So we talk about it, maybe we talk about it when we pay the bills on a monthly basis, or we almost schedule an annual meeting. So my wife and I talk about our finances, our giving, at the end of the year. So we know, we get our statements, we see what we've given, and we say, do we want to continue that? Or do we want to add somebody? Do we want to remove somebody? Maybe somebody is out of the mission field, and so we're not going to be giving to them anymore because they're not missionaries anymore.
Right.
So are we going to reallocate that money someplace else? So big picture stuff I like a couple times a year. The day-to-day stuff, though, I think we should be talking about that even in a cursory kind of fashion on a monthly basis, because money's really important. Now, it's not the most important thing by far, but it is important. So, and you know, we've talked to so many people on the radio show that had we addressed this issue early on,
Yeah.
it would have never become this big.
Yeah.
It would have been
Yeah.
this big and easier to solve. So I think if we can do it in a way, if we can communicate in a way, and I know all men out there are expert communicators, and our
you guys
wives are not quite
nailing
as
it.
good,
Exactly.
but we're really trying. We're really trying. And our wives have a really hard time communicating with us sometimes.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is do it in a way that's not accusatory. Let's see what's going on here. Let's find out why we're here, or could we do better. And I think when you're engaged as a couple, it just makes it normal, right? So if I haven't talked to you about finances in 8 months, Janelle, and then I show up and I say, hey, I want to talk about the finances. Well, the first thing you're going to think is, what did I do?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong?
And you sit down with that mindset.
Right.
Oh. So Deborah's saying, great to be open and to communicate. You got to be on the same page. I'm blessed to have a husband where we're both on the same page. So what do you do, and what are some ways that you've kept the conversations on finances healthy in your marriage? And so as you're saying, okay, so now I sit down at least monthly. I'm still struggling with, we're sitting down. Because we sit down and talk about it. We don't have like a set, let's cover this, and this. It's like everywhere. So a 30-minute meeting can turn into 2 hours, and then we can cover a whole lot of stuff about our marriage because of the finances.
Yeah.
So how do you keep it focused? It's really crazy.
Well, this is a conversation I want to avoid already. When I heard
Exactly.
that it went on for 2 hours, I'm like,
yes.
oh my gosh.
Yes. So how do you keep it focused so that it's not emotional and so that you're actually addressing the issues?
So if you were at work and you had 30 minutes to do a staff meeting, you would have a list of things that we talk about, okay? And you might have the pillow of communication. You know what the pillow of communication?
No.
And it's not something you hold over Len's face
Yeah.
while you talk. Okay? Whoever holds the pillow talks.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe it's the pen of communication while you're talking about finances. But I would have a list of normal things that we talk about. Where are the savings? How are the investments doing? Is that bill paid off? Just kind of go down, boom, 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 instead of being scattered all over the place. And don't let the conversation, do not allow the circular argument to start. Okay? We have to be the one. So maybe your spouse, and again, men never do this.
No.
Men are such good communicators.
That's
It
what I'm
surprises
saying.
me sometimes.
Amazing.
And I know women are trying to do better. They're trying to do better. And I think with a little coaching we can help them.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
But if you see the circular argument starting, do not fall into that trap.
Right.
And I always, because I work in finance, I think I know everything about finance, which I don't. And so I've learned a lot from my wife, especially on credit cards early on when I tried to run a balance on a credit card and she was going to break my knuckle with a hammer. I was like, well, I don't want that to happen.
No.
So I never ran a balance on a credit card again. But if you're the one that does the finances, you have to be the open book. You have to say, here's what I did this month. Here's what went into savings, or here's why we didn't put money into savings this month. And so the more communication you have that's normal and regular, the less weird it's going to be when somebody says, I'd like to talk about the finances.
Yeah.
It's like when your dad or your mom came to you and you said, hey, I need to talk to you later when you get home. You're like, well, what is it about? Maybe I shouldn't come home, right? So you don't want to set that kind of, almost like that fear or what did I do wrong type of mentality.
Yeah.
Say, let's just go over the finances tonight like we do every month.
Yeah. So we're talking about good practices to keep our conversations around finances healthy and consistent in our marriage. Some of you are sharing what you do. Deborah is asking, what exactly is a circular conversation? And how do you get out of it when you see it going that way?
Okay, the circular argument is when I say I'd like to talk about the finances because I saw an Amazon.com bill that I wasn't expecting, and my wife says, but remember when you bought that golf club that you didn't tell me about? Which is true. I was driving one time, and I got a text, and I said, hey, hon, would you read that? And the text was from my friend that said, since you bought new golf clubs. And she said, you bought new golf clubs?
Oh.
I'm like, I was just about to tell you. So now we're going down this rabbit hole, and I say, well, but remember that time that you...
Yeah.
We have a house full of pillows. I don't know where all these pillows come from.
Yeah.
But my wife continually buys
Are you serious?
pillows.
They're like
The
rabbits.
decorative ones?
There are all kinds of
Everything.
pillows. Yeah. Some with beads where if you actually use the pillow, it's totally uncomfortable. You feel like you're at an acupuncture appointment or you got shot with an acupuncture machine gun. And so this argument so the original subject that we were supposed to be talking about, nowhere in sight.
Yeah.
And so we're circling, we're going down this rabbit hole of argument that has nothing to do. And how do you avoid it? You take the pressure off. And so if you've never talked to your spouse about finances, you say, look, I just want to sit down and kind of understand how we're doing this and what's going on. I'm not saying you're doing a bad job. I just think it's better if we both know, because if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, I have to pay the bills next month. Mm-hmm. And so it's good for both people to know the finances. It's good to know, you should know the name of your mortgage company, right? So if you have to call them and say, my wife got hit by a bus, I wasn't driving it, I have to pay the bill. So these are things we should know. And you should know where the money's going. Think of yourself as a little corporation. You're the Janelle Neville's corporation, you and Len.
I like the sound of that already.
Right? And maybe you're the CFO or Len is the chief financial officer, but you're all in this together. We need to work together to make this thing work. It is complicated. It is hard. There are so many things grabbing for our attention. If we make this a regular conversation, it's not weird. And if we make it a regular conversation, it's very normal. We're just going to go over the finances. Let's just go over the month. It'll take 10 minutes. We'll go over the 5 things that we go over. What's in savings? What's coming up? How's the portfolio doing?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Make a list.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Just an aside, but Dave, you know what my least favorite financial word is?
What's that, Ron?
Just. As in, it was just $10,
Oh,
or it was
yeah.
just $100.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm the other way. No, take the just out. It was $10. You didn't need to spend that $10. That could have gone to savings.
Yeah. So when somebody, what I like to do in a budget, if it's in your budget, I like to set aside some money where you don't have to ask me. I don't have to ask you. I'm going to spend the money. Now, my TV just broke. And I had it for a long time, 4 years.
Wow.
But in TV life.
But in TV, I told somebody the other day, when I was growing up, we had a TV for 25 years, the same TV. Now, TVs cost $2,000 and they last for 4 years.
Yeah.
And so I said to my wife, I think we need to get a new TV. And we had this discussion. I don't have a new TV yet, so you see who has the financial power in my life. But we are going to get a new TV. But so there is a level that we go over, and I say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And for everybody, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But I like to have a number, and I like it to be low. I like it to be lower. So $100, $200, maybe $50 for your
spending.
family.
You're saying
Yeah,
spending?
for like if I'm going to go spend it, I should talk to Levon about it before I do it.
Okay.
We have a number. So when we first got married, we both had $10 a week to spend without talking to it. We're in a little bit different financial position now, so that number's different. But realize that money is such an emotional thing for some people that if you go out and spend money and don't tell your spouse, it may be creating a division that you don't even know is happening. And so depending on their background, maybe they grew up very poor. And so they didn't have a lot of money. And so when somebody spent money, it was a big deal. And now you're spending money without kind of going through the motions with her. Maybe you need to do that and honor her in that. Or maybe they came from a position of wealth. And so spending money was no big deal, but you did it. So you look at it like, well, that was wasteful.
Yeah.
So honoring each other with the discussion, and when I mean honoring, I really mean giving them the honor of saying, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And then if they give you an answer that you don't like, instead of saying, but remember what, that's where the circular argument starts. What we should do at that point is say, why do you feel that way? Find out what's going on here, because your pocketbook is just a mirror of this. It's a mirror of your heart. If you're not good with money or you're wasting money, there's something going on here that we need to get to. And I want to find out what that is.
I like that. I like that you mentioned, because that was always a question I had, that there can be a number, a little budget that you can give each other where you don't have to come and ask, can I go to Starbucks today? Right? So if it's $5, that's good. Because sometimes you feel babysat or like micromanaged when you feel like you got to ask for everything.
You know, especially if you have a stay-at-home parent.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
And so you're at home and I'm not going to say it's a stay-at-home mom, because I do know some stay-at-home dads.
Some dads,
which I think is crazy. I don't know how they do it. My head would explode. My kids would be Velcroed to like a wall when my wife got home. How are the kids? They're fine. They're Velcroed to the wall. They seem to be doing great. If you're a stay-at-home parent, the mentality is, well, I need to contribute to this family because I'm not making money.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, wrong-headed, because some people will go to work and they will make just enough money to pay for daycare and gas to work. And then some people don't care how much they would make on the outside because they want to be home with their kids.
Yeah.
So that's a family decision that you make, and you're contributing to the family.
Absolutely.
So you still have just as much say in the budget. And when I see some of these, what I would call old-style families, where the man does the bills, he sets the budget, he says what we spend, I think we're missing the point a little bit. I think it needs to be more of a partnership, because that guy is missing out on some wisdom that his wife probably has with finances.
Right.
He just doesn't want to hear it. So I don't like those situations. I need to have input.
Michelle wants to know, as a single person, should I find a trusted individual to keep me accountable for my finances? I feel as though I'm very responsible, but what if I could be better?
Yeah. Well, this is where women's and men ministries at church really come in handy, because for a single parent, I think the church's job, which we've abdicated to the government by mistake, the church's job is to stand in the gap. And for her, what I would do is I would find a more mature woman at church, age-wise, finance-wise, and I would say, could you be a mentor for me? Could you be a mentor? Could you talk to me about finances? Could you talk to me about family? Could you talk to me about anything that would help me be a better parent at what I'm doing? And part of it would be finances. So I think that person should be, that you find as a mentor, they don't have to be perfect, by the way, because if we only had perfect mentors, we'd have nobody. But tell me about the mistakes that you've made and how you recovered from it. I like to hear that. I like to hear people's recovery. I don't care how many times you get knocked down. I care about how many times you get up. Yep. That's the number that I really care about. And I want that number to be one more time than the knockdowns. Right? So you're making mistakes, you're recovering, and the best story that I hear are the ones that start off with, well, I never want to make this mistake again, because it tells me it was painful.
Yeah. Right? And that you didn't waste the tragedy or
don't waste the crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of churches, like my church, has a couple where the guy is like the financial guru that teaches the financial lessons at church. And if you've got a desire to get input, like our texter, why not approach them and say, hey, could you just, let me go over my finances with you, and you can give me some advice if I'm doing good or where I could improve.
Yeah, I like that.
Hi, Rob. And you were going to say more?
Nope.
Hi, Rob and Ira and Fred and Rod. Lots of you hanging with us. Callie. We're going to get to a couple finance questions that people want. So we'll,
Okay.
they want to take advantage of our time with you. Rachel's saying, if I can ask a follow-up on my text question Dave answered last hour regarding sticking to our budget with the goal of $1,000 a month to savings in our retirement accounts. We're paying over $600 a month combined for our whole life policies at over $500,000 payout. $500,000.
They had two
payout.
kids, though, right?
Yes. And the $150 per month private IRA. Given our situation and savings for a new home, should we trim there because we cut down our monthly savings goal? Before we cut down our monthly savings.
Yeah, I think insurance is one of these crazy things where you could talk to 10 people today and get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
I used to say if you lined up 100 economists and they'd still all be pointing in a different direction. So it's a very personal thing, what kind of insurance you need and what kind of insurance you want, what you think is the best. So there are cheaper ways than whole life to insure your life. And now the amount, if you have two kids, even though you don't have a lot of debt, I think $500,000 is not enough insurance. I think you probably need closer to $1 million or $1.5 million because you think about if you cut out one of your incomes, right? So you've cut out, somebody's gone, they've assumed room temperature, you're not getting their income. And they might have some insurance at work, but I usually discount that because I don't know that you're going to be at that job when you die.
Yeah.
I don't know if that place is going to be around when you die. And most people don't die at 30. So they die after retirement where they don't have insurance at work. But if you did die now, I think you need closer to $1 million for two kids or higher. So there are cheaper ways to do that. And there's, whenever I see a young person with whole life, I think, I don't know if I would have done it that way because I want to be more investment oriented, even with my life insurance, because you have such a long period of time to invest that to me, there are better ways to do it and cheaper.
Okay. Rob is a faithful listener. Hi, Rob. And he wants to know, what are your thoughts on the budgeting sites, for example, mint.com? I know that question comes up a lot, but
I like Mint. Mint is a good program. There are a lot of great sites. Look, the best budget software that exists is the one that you will use.
Yeah.
So if it's a pen and a paper or a napkin, right, I would use that.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep track of things and Mint works for you, and the thing that I like about Mint is that you can download all your credit card statements to it. You can download other bills to it. You can download your bank statement to it.
Yeah.
And so it's very effective in that sense. So in a technology sense, things have progressed dramatically over the last few years to where if you want second-to-second information on your finances, you can. I wear an Apple Watch, right? Okay. And there's so much data available on my life that I didn't, what's my heart rate right now? Well, who cares, right?
Yeah.
But so you don't need to know what am I spending right now on my finances, but maybe on a weekly basis, I would say, where are my weak points? So you could really identify now with the charts and the graphs and the information that's available, where am I really spending my money at? Where are my weak points at? Help me identify those things. So I like the technology for that.
Before we close out, one more thing about budgeting, because I know this is like a sticking point for a lot of us. Deborah is saying, Janet is saying, budget stresses me out because of the variables. I can't get past that. What do you do with those? And I'm not even talking about the electric bill. Like, there's a lot of, like, random stuff that you don't know how to categorize.
Yes. Yeah. Don't sweat the details, okay? Just roll with it for 3 months straight and then adapt. So you, instead of saying, well, I don't know if this bill is going to be $100 or $1. Well, budget $100 in so that when it's or budget $50 in so that when it's $1, you got 49 extra, and when it's $100, you got more money in that category. And just be malleable. Be willing to adapt to the real life. So when we write our budget down, we say, well, now I got to stick to this number 100% or my budget's wrong. Well, no, it's a guide. It's. I want you to think of your budget as bowling with kids, where you set those I'm a great bowler when you can set up those guards in the gutter.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
bowl 300 every
That's
time.
right.
Think of your budget as that. Now you've set up this range of possibilities. You're going to adapt the budget over time to work, but what you need to do is, one, stop getting stressed out about it. I don't want you to think of it that way. I want you to think of it as a guide that I'm going to use for the next 3 or 6 months and just see where I'm at the end of 6 months. And then I'll have the information to where I can adapt the budget to kind of address some of those variables.
Okay, one last thing. So, like the random ones that happen like once every 6 months, or just like the category would be miscellaneous,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. Good morning, Leslie. Thank you for
Hey,
joining
Leslie.
us, and thank you guys. Remember tomorrow, Follow Up Friday. Lots of topics there. Brian will be back then. Share our conversation, continue the discussion, and let us know what you've done that's worked to make your conversations on finances with your spouse healthy and consistent. Thank you. Hasta luego.